Next, we'll be talking about the brief introduction to core areas of environmental studies where you need to focus more if you want to score considerably concerned with this preliminary examination stage. So we have divided entire syllabus of this subject into 7 core areas, and with some examples we'll try to introduce you so that you can plan accordingly. So core area number 1, very basic. What is that here? Principles. We have the concepts and principles we have. So basic concepts you need to learn. These concepts do not change over a period of time and they remain constant, and once you are thorough with these basic concepts and principles, you can answer most of the questions because you can understand the root cause of the very issue. Yes, so for example, food chains, food webs and traffic levels, very important area. Based on this you might have certain questions here. And then biogeochemical cycles, nutrient cycles, these are also known as carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, sulfur, phosphorus. So we can have a lot of such things. For example, your climate change or global warming or greenhouse effect, they revolve largely around carbon cycle. We can have short-term carbon cycle, we can also have long-term carbon cycle. For example, combustion of fossil fuels for automobiles, automobile fuels, or for cooking fuel, or for industrial raw materials, or even for electricity generation. So all these things are largely concerned with the long-term carbon cycle. Whenever you burn organic matter, you will have a lot of carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere, which is the chief greenhouse gas. So that is how you will understand. If you understand the carbon cycle properly, you can understand why there is climate change and why climate change is directly associated with carbon emissions or the carbon dioxide gas, in other words. So next is the ecosystem services, like types and importance of ecosystems, why they are important, why you should understand about them, and what role ecosystems play, different ecosystems play in the life for humans or in flora and fauna, all these things here. Next is the concept of succession. For example, you might have studied that deforestation is one of the important reasons for a lot of changes in the environment or ecosystem here. Yes. So why forests are important and why should we conserve them and why should we protect them? Why should there be reforestation or afforestation? So if you want to understand these things, you have to have the basic knowledge about ecological succession and why only certain animals or certain organisms survive only in certain forests. So this is about the core area number 1, very briefly. And next is core area number 2. So once you understand what is normal, it would be easy for you to understand what can go wrong and when can you call something as abnormal or degradation or any kind of deviation from normal. What is that here? You are looking at environmental degradation. We call it as environmental degradation. Environmental degradation can be studied under 2 different headings. Number 1 is short-term reversible environmental degradation, which can also be called as pollution, and another one is long-term or irreversible environmental degradation, which is known as climate change. We all know these things, yes? So have a look at this pollution, very important, because we know that in India we have Central Pollution Control Board, we have State Pollution Control Board. So all these things are actively working towards not only generating awareness among people, but also in formulating and implementing legislations or laws or acts, and also managing the pollution across various geographies. So we have air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution and noise pollution. And please remember, once you understand why they are caused and cause and consequence relationship, you can also understand why it is important not to pollute, so that you can increase awareness and educate masses to prevent pollution. And we have a lot of legislations or acts concerned with India. So we have Prevention and Control of Pollution Acts 1981, or Water Control and Prevention of Pollution of Water 1934. We have a lot of such legislations, and why they are under implementation you can easily understand here. And then e-waste management and solid waste management rules here. Solid waste is quickly becoming a very significant threat to urban people's lives. Solid waste is generated in large quantities by most of the cities because of consumeristic and a lot of garbage or waste are generated every day, every week, every month in large quantities from urban areas, and then this is posing a large threat not only to the health of human beings but also to the balance of the ecosystems and also for the welfare and normal survival of plants and animals. Yes, so we can have these aspects here, and then role of Central Pollution Control Board and state pollution control boards in pollution control. So these are the areas which you need to focus in core area number 2. Next is what? Core area number 3, we have the long-term environmental degradation, which is the consequence of global warming, called as climate change. So climate change is the most important area, most important topic of discussion in the study of environment and ecology. So basics of climate change: causes, effects or consequences, and mitigation strategies you have to understand. Next is, what is Kyoto Protocol? The only protocol which is under implementation concerned with the mitigation or management of climate change internationally. Paris Agreement and Conference of Parties and various summits or meetings or conferences. So you have to focus on Conference of Parties. Many people ask, should we remember all COPs or Conference of Parties? Not necessarily. Very few are there. For example, in 2015, so we had Paris. So Paris Agreement is going to be the successor to Kyoto Protocol. That is why you should focus on Paris Agreement. That is 2005 Conference of Parties. And then the most recent Conference of Parties, that is Azerbaijan, Baku, COP29, which was in the last year, November, which was held in Baku, Azerbaijan, COP20, Conference of Parties 29. So most recent one would be significant for the forthcoming exam. Next is India's Climate Action Plan. We call it as National Action Plan on Climate Change, NAPCC. So focus on that, and nationally determined contributions under Paris Agreement. What did we pledge? What did India promise voluntarily to international community concerned with the plans or actions or policies or the so-called commitments on behalf of India towards climate change mitigation? Next is the importance of renewable energy, for example, solar energy, National Solar Mission. So how the renewable energy missions would help in mitigating climate change. So just focus on that area here. And the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is a governing body, yes, concerned with the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. UNEP is the office of United Nations concerned with climate change. So the IPCC reports and global carbon budget. Which country, which region, which industry is producing how much of greenhouse gases. So try to focus on these areas. That is core area number 3. Next is the core area number 4. Of late, a lot of questions have been asked. What do you mean by a lot of questions? Around 5 to 6 questions have been asked from biodiversity and its conservation. We know that a lot of plants and animals are becoming extinct, or they are extinct in the wild and surviving only under captivity, or becoming critically endangered, or sometimes endangered or even vulnerable. So Government of India, or for that matter many agencies internationally or within India, the Government of India, have lot of strategies or programs or projects for the conservation of certain animals or plants which are listed under these categories like endangered, vulnerable, critically endangered, or extinct in the wild. So we have the IUCN Red List, which will publish which animals and plants are in the endangered or critically endangered categories, which need urgent conservation efforts to be focused. So what is biodiversity? Why should we conserve it? What is the importance? What are the benefits? What will we lose if we don't conserve? So these things, just try to understand the basics here. Next is the biodiversity hotspots in India. For example, Eastern Himalayas and Western Ghats are simple examples. We all know that because we have been studying about the importance of these areas right from school ages. Yes. National parks, wildlife sanctuaries and biosphere reserves in India. Try to have a look at those names, try to have a look at them. Yes, which national park, which biosphere reserve, or which bird sanctuary is in which state. So a lot of national parks, bird sanctuaries or biosphere reserves will be in news for various reasons for that matter. Yes, conservation projects. We know that recently a trending component is there in the news, that is One Tara in Gujarat, Jamnagar. So we have a 3,000 acre privately owned and maintained zoological park, which is the Greens Zoological and Conservation Reserve, which is also known as Vanatara, because on 3rd of March this year 2025 the Prime Minister of India inaugurated that Vanatara. So this is in news for various reasons, for both good reasons and not for not so good reasons, because a lot of controversies are looming around it. So can private individuals conserve wildlife in large concentrations? So if yes, then what about individuals who are like, for example, in India, national animal, so tiger is owned by some person, so it is considered as illegal. But in this case here, in large concentrations, another person is owning wildlife, so it is supported by the government. So what's happening here? And a lot of wild animals are being imported from Africa into this Vantara. So what is happening here? So importing means what? Somebody is buying them from Africa, and they are transporting these animals to Gujarat, and they are growing them or supporting them or conserving them under captive conditions. Please remember, this Vantara is enclosure. Boundaries are specific. It is enclosure wherein these are conserved or protected or rescued or treated well. So that is a different story here. Yes. So for example, wildlife, nature and wildlife conservation is in the concurrent list in India. Please understand this. That means states and central government both have responsibilities here. And then actually the Wildlife Conservation Act would clearly say, 1972 would clearly mention that it is the state's responsibility to conserve nature and wildlife, including wild animals, flora and fauna. But can private individuals do this job? Should government support this? What does the law say? Is the law same for all people in India? So a lot of questions would come around. So we will talk about those things at a later stage here. So a lot of questions can come. Advantages and disadvantages of privatization of wildlife conservation. Can there be some advantages, or is it outrightly disadvantageous? For whom? If it is advantageous, for whom it is advantageous? Animals are supposed to be in their natural habitats or environments, no matter where they are, in which country they are. Natural environment is always supportive because adaptation and evolution occurs only in natural habitats, not under captivity or enclosures. No matter what kind of facilities you may provide to them, enclosure is an artificial environment. Please understand this, wherein unethical aspects can happen, like forced breeding of animals, drug trials, or any other kind of activities may occur in the future. So genetic experiments may occur, so we don't know, and these may result in or you can say that adverse consequences in the future. So somebody can weaponize this, somebody can capitalize on this, somebody can take advantage of this, and then it is nothing but the kind of pseudo capitalistic tendencies. So a lot of questions would arise here in general. It depends who you are and what is your perspective about something which is happening right now in India. Yes. So we have a lot of projects here. So when there is Project Tiger implemented on behalf of Government of India for the conservation of for the conservation of tiger, why should there be a private agency doing the same? So is it privatization of wildlife conservation? Are we privatizing the protection of environment, forests, wildlife? Probably this is the first step. So that is how it happens. So Project Tiger, so we have a lot of such projects here which have been doing considerably well in conserving those endangered animals, and India has world's largest number of tigers. So we can easily observe when you look at the numbers. Yes. So endangered species in India, their names in the news in the recent past, in the news, try to focus on them. Flora and fauna in news, endangered species in news, try to focus on them. So protected areas under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So which are the protected areas in India in general? National parks or biosphere reserves or bird sanctuaries. So these kind of protected areas here. And international organizations like International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources and World Wide Fund for Nature or World Wildlife Fund. And then we have CITES, Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, and we have the Wetland Conservation, that is Ramsar Convention 1971. Yes. And then deforestation and human wildlife conflicts and the laws concerned with the conflicts here. So that means you must have seen that in many villages in India, you must have heard that elephants have charged into the village, or a leopard or a tiger has attacked humans, or caught some animals and it flew into the forest. You must have seen a lot of such instances here. Yes. So that is nothing but man-animal conflict. And what does the law say about this? Do we have any laws? protecting wildlife or protecting human life? What is more important? You have to choose at the end of the day. So these kind of things in core area number 4, and next is core area number 5, that is the concept of sustainability and sustainable development. It is a very popular aspect among all those people exam preparing candidates about SDGs, sustainable development goals, that, yes, which align in line with the Millennium Development Goals and all those other things. Yes, what is sustainable development? It all started by what? Brundtland Commission report, 1987, the Gro-Harlem Brundtland submitted the report. The Our Common Future was the title of the report, and this report was submitted to the United Nations, and then accordingly 1992 Rio Earth Summit had the proceedings concerned with sustainable development. So United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs we have, and National Green Tribunal, so it is playing a very active role in the recent past, you can observe that, yes. And then environmental impact assessment, a very important decision making tool for policymakers and policy implementing agencies. So on what basis should you give permission to certain projects or industries or factories or any kind of developmental infrastructure in the country, in India? So before you give permission of implementation, you try to simulate, you try to have a model about the impact of such project should be implemented, if it needs to be implemented. So what kind of impacts that project would have, and if the consequences are adverse, then you can cancel the permission. If the impacts are not very disadvantageous, you can always go ahead with the project here. So what kind of tool helps you to take a decision whether to give the EC, that is environmental clearance certificate, to a project or not? It is based on environmental impact assessment tool. So this, and then green energy initiatives in India like hydrogen, many people say hydrogen is the energy of the future, and as of now we have wind energy and we have solar energy, we have a lot of such aspects here. What kind of role they play in sustainable development, sustainable energy, yes, these aspects fall in core area number 5. Next is core area number 6. What is that here? Important environmental conventions and treaties. Convention is nothing but legally binding outcome of a conference. Conference means a meeting. If the conference comes out with a legally binding agreement, such a legally binding agreement of a conference is called as convention. So we concerned with environment, we have had lot of such conventions here concerned with environment. So we have Stockholm Conference, Rio Summit, and Agenda 21 are some examples, and then try to have some knowledge about what they are. And then Convention on Biological Diversity, very very important. These are outcomes of 1992 Rio Earth Summit, yes. And Montreal Protocol and ozone layer protection, one of the most successfully implemented convention now on the earth on a global scale is Montreal Protocol, concerned with the phased manner of prohibition of the ozone layer depleting substances, which are CFCs, we know that, yes. And then United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and Conference of Parties and meetings here. And then in India we have National Action Plan on Climate Change and intended nationally determined contributions concerned with Paris Agreement, we know that, yes. So these are to be focused in core area number 6, and then we'll have the core area number 7, the last one. What is that here? Disaster management and environment. How these are related to each other? Very closely these are related, because climate change itself is considered as one of the major or significant disaster in the 21st century. Please understand this, yes. So role of National Disaster Management Authority and Disaster Response Force in natural disaster management in India. What kind of role? Please remember, disaster management should be studied in close association with geography on one hand and environmental studies on the other hand. So disaster management has overlapping of both geography on one side and environmental studies on the other side. So if you study disaster management in this way, it will be useful to you. You can answer more number of questions, that's all, yes. So environmental hazards, cyclones, floods and droughts, very important part of our day-to-day life in India. So we have been witnessing all these things in the recent past. Mitigation strategies for climate related disasters, because climate change is also considered as one disaster, human induced disaster, yes. And any contemporary developments related to the environment, please understand this, in news, For example, the government policies, CAMPA or National Biodiversity Mission. So we have a lot of such aspects in news in the recent past here, and the new initiatives, Namami Gange or Jal Shakti Abhiyan, or recent developments in renewable energy sector. So all these things need to be focused here. Make short notes of all those things in the contemporary developments, and your preparation would be very, very positive and useful to you for the forthcoming civil service preliminary examination. And one such